I stood outside the same house I once called home, but this time I wasn't a helpless girl on the other side of the door. I was the city commissioner, flanked by two police officers. The streetlights flickered behind me. It was raining softly, and the familiar iron gate in front of me creaked as I pushed it open. My footsteps echoed on the wet tiles of the front porch. My heart wasn't racing, it was steady. This wasn't revenge. This was justice. Inside, my stepsister Madison sat sobbing beside her equally dazed boyfriend. Her eyeliner had bled down her face. Her perfume couldn't mask the stench of alcohol. Just hours earlier, they had struck a pedestrian while driving intoxicated, and now she was going to answer for it. I raised my hand to knock. Karen, my stepmother, opened the door. Her face went pale the second our eyes met. She didn't say my name. She couldn't. The uniform, the officers behind me, the title she once ripped from my hands, it all stood between us. But I remembered everything. The betrayal, the silence, the pain. She looked frozen in time. I was not. Before the betrayal, before the bitterness, there was peace. My mornings began in a sunlit kitchen where my mother stood in a faded green scarf, brushing my hair beside the window. I remember the scent of cinnamon tea on the stove, the sound of sparrows outside, the gentle tug of her fingers as she braided my hair. She always said, "You'll wear an officer's badge one day, my girl. You'll do the work I never got the chance to do." She never treated it like a wish. It was a truth waiting to happen. I was a serious, quiet child. I loved school. I soaked in books like rain into dry soil. My teachers used to say she's too mature for her age. Maybe I was. Maybe I knew early that time was precious. And then one rainy night, it ended. My mother's accident wasn't anyone's fault. At least that's what the police said. But try telling that to a 12-year-old who lost her whole world to a collision of wet roads and a speeding truck. My father changed after that. His silences got longer. He began leaving the house early and coming back late. One morning, 6 months after the funeral, he introduced us to Karen, a polished woman with thin lips and an expensive shawl. She had a daughter, Madison, who was exactly my age. By the end of the month, they had moved in. My father didn't ask. He just shifted the furniture, cleared out half my closet, and said, "This is Madison's room now, too." I remember sitting on my bed, watching them hang her clothes beside mine. She smelled like vanilla shampoo. I smelled like the old wooden wardrobe. The house was still mine, technically, but slowly I began to disappear in it. At first, I tried. I shared my desk, my books, my silence. I pretended we were sisters. I even offered Madison my favorite pen during our first shared exam week. But Karen never saw me. Not really. She saw a leftover from another woman. A shadow of someone her husband used to love. "You'll never be as polished as Madison," she told me once quietly while drying dishes. My father stopped asking how my day was. He asked Madison instead. It was always little things at first, my books being moved, my backpack mysteriously going missing, Madison wearing my clothes without asking. Then came the day I was pulled from school. It was sudden. No warning. Just a family meeting where I sat on the edge of the sofa trying not to cry. "We've decided it's best for you to switch schools," my father said, calm and cold. "Why?" I asked. "Budget," he replied. I turned to Karen. She didn't even pretend to be sad. "Madison's staying," I said. "Her school costs more than mine." "Her mother's dying wish," Karen said smoothly. "She always dreamed Madison would become a commissioner. My mother had wanted the same, but my mother was ashes now. I was sent to a public school across town. It smelled of mildew and sweat. There were no libraries, no labs, no future. By 16, even that ended. They said they wouldn't pay anymore. Karen said it was a waste. I stood outside the school gates for an hour that day, holding my report card and staring at the locked doors. That night, I cried. Not loud sobs. Quiet, hot tears that soaked into my pillow. And I whispered over and over again, this is not how my story ends. When I turned 18, I left. I didn't pack much, just a notebook, 2 shirts, and the photo of my mother. No one noticed. I slept the first night at a bus station. The second night under a shelter. My shoes were falling apart. My money was gone. I hadn't eaten in a day. Then I found the shop. It was tucked between a tire store and a tailoring stall, a small corner shop with dusty windows. I was staring at a pack of bread when the shopkeeper noticed me. "You hungry?" she asked. I nodded. "Come tomorrow," she said. "You can clean. I'll give you food." Her name was Mrs. Johnson. She was stern, sharp-tongued, but kind. That night, she gave me a blanket and let me sleep in the storeroom. It smelled of spices and cardboard. It became my home. She fed me. She taught me how to run a register. She never asked questions about my past. But every night she said, "Don't waste that mind. Study, quietly, while the city sleeps." So I did. I found old textbooks at flea markets. I studied math while stocking shelves. I watched video lectures on her ancient desktop. I failed my first exam. I failed the second, but I didn't stop. I passed my equivalency test. Then came the civil service exams. The third time I applied, I passed. I hugged Mrs. Johnson like a mother. "I'm going to be a commissioner," I whispered. She didn't cry, but she made me rice pudding that night. Training was harder than anything I'd known, but my pain had taught me how to endure, how to wait, how to fight without screaming. In the academy, I ran laps while others collapsed. I wrote notes late into the night. I stitched every insult I had ever swallowed into fuel. I didn't tell anyone my past, but I remembered it with every step. The scent of dust in the cheap school. Madison's mocking smile. My mother's voice, quiet but unwavering. "You'll wear that badge." I repeated that to myself every morning, not out of anger, out of promise. When I got my posting back in the same city where it all began, I stood outside the commissioner's office in a pressed white uniform and closed my eyes. "This is your seat now," I whispered, and I walked in. After finishing my training, I was posted back to my hometown, the very place filled with memories that once made me feel small. But now I wasn't that scared girl anymore. I was the commissioner, and that title gave me strength. I found a small apartment near my office, nothing fancy, but it was mine. I kept my circle tight, only a few people I could trust. Work became my refuge, cases, meetings, reports, all day, every day. Then one afternoon, a file landed on my desk, a hit-and-run case. The victim was critical in the hospital. The suspect? My stepsister, Madison? My heart twisted painfully, but I forced myself to stay professional. I went through every detail: police statements, witness accounts, forensic reports. It was clear Madison and her boyfriend were driving drunk. Karen tried to protect her daughter, calling contacts, spreading rumors that I was biased. People whispered, wondering if I could be fair. The first blow came when the prosecutor hesitated to press charges. They feared the family's influence. I refused to back down. I collected more evidence, spoke directly with witnesses, and stood my ground. Then threats started coming to me, anonymous messages, ugly and full of warning. For a moment, fear flickered. But I remembered my mother's dreams and Mrs. Johnson's unwavering faith. I was determined. Every obstacle became fuel, proof of how far I'd come. Slowly, things started to change. Karen's calls stopped. The prosecutor agreed to proceed. This wasn't just about justice for the victim anymore. It was my fight to reclaim my dignity and the life that was stolen from me. The day of the hearing arrived. The courthouse buzzed with tension. Reporters crowded the hallways. My heart pounded, but I stayed calm. Inside the courtroom, Madison sat with her lawyer, her face pale but defiant. Karen was there too, eyes darting nervously. I presented the facts clearly, steadily. The evidence was undeniable. Witnesses testified. The toxicology report was damning. When the defense tried to dismiss the charges, I spoke up. "This isn't about family or favoritism," I said firmly. "It's about justice for the victim and for everyone who believes in accountability." Karen's face tightened. She glanced at me with a mix of shock and disbelief. She never expected this. The judge listened carefully, nodding. Finally, he ruled that Madison would stand trial. The courtroom erupted with whispers. I felt a quiet victory. Afterward, I saw Karen approach, voice low and trembling. "You've changed everything," she said. "I didn't think you had it in you." I looked her in the eye. I did. Because this is who I always was. Not the girl you pushed aside. In the days that followed, I felt a strange mix of relief and exhaustion. The case wasn't over, but the truth was out. Justice was in motion. People I hadn't spoken to in years reached out. Some apologized for doubting me. Others simply nodded in respect. I took quiet moments alone, walking in the park near my apartment, watching the city breathe around me. The scent of wet earth after rain reminded me of childhood monsoons and my mother's gentle voice. I thought about how far I'd come, from the girl pushed out of school to the woman standing tall in a white uniform. But more than anything, I felt peace. Not from winning a fight, but from reclaiming my story. I no longer carried the weight of silence or shame. I was no longer invisible. Standing by the window of my small apartment, I watched the city lights flicker on as dusk settles in. The rain has stopped, leaving the street sparkling wet beneath the street lamps. My journey wasn't easy. It was filled with pain, betrayal, and countless moments when giving up seemed easier. But each step, every tear, and every struggle built the foundation of who I am now. I realize now that strength isn't about fighting to hurt others. It's about standing firm in truth, about reclaiming dignity when the world tries to erase you. The badge I wear is more than a symbol of authority. It's a promise to myself and to my mother that no one will decide my worth but me. As I sip my tea, a quiet smile crosses my lips. This is my story. Not the one others wrote for me, but the one I chose to live. And I'm just getting started.